Hello and welcome, everybody. Recording is in progress. Daryl Snyder, Brandon Abbey, and R.C. Fischer. Sportstopia is, we're excited. Got R.C. here for, I think it's exactly sure, maybe the fourth week, third week, fifth week, somewhere in there since football started. I think this is the beginning of week number 5. R.C. is he is the founder of ffmetrics.com. He was just talking about how much he loves to just embrace himself in multiple game films for games like tonight's game. He's also a content provider inside the Contrarian Edge Optimizer with some highly respected I won't put this into RC's age, but a combined over 100 years experience with all the providers providing data. RC has his own proprietary special sauce that we're excited about, and he has come out, and we haven't officially named it. It started out to be RC's picks from somewhere near his back pocket. He says it's his wallet because green is the color of the day, and normally when he pulls these picks out like he's going to tonight, they're a little bit contrarian. So we are going to dive right in. We've got I won't say it's going to be, could be. I mean, it's a rivalry, Denver, Kansas City. Sure, RC will maybe expand upon what that has to do with anything. But Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, a few other people involved in the game tonight that could be crucial. We're going to maybe flip back on that Monday night game that we talked about with the Packers and the Raiders. And you and I were texting, RC. What did you think of that performance? And welcome, great to have you here. That was a long introduction. We've got about 5 minutes left, so let's try to keep it centered. But how are you?
The show that is also known as either come share the $1 million with us or please stop sharing in the $1 million with us.
Yeah, I mean, two-time Millionaire Maker tied for first, one with 134 people, the other with about 79, but they were still nice little slices, over 10,000, almost 11 on one and 18 and then a second, but yet to solo ship, they call it, by myself, perhaps, with the wisdom that you're about to share with us. Tonight is the night. But what about those Packers and Raiders? What'd you see there?
I think we left off that preview podcast with this could be a mess of quarterbacks throwing turnovers at each other, and that's about what happened. And also the two teams would try to run at each other and probably not be successful, but they were successful enough. But that was not great football from two not great teams that need quarterback changes that probably won't happen until later in this. Well, for the Raiders, it'll happen later in the season, and for Green Bay, it'll happen next year. But Jordan Love is not it.
Not yet. Aaron Rodgers or
could
Brett
kind
Favre.
of be it. Sean Clifford could take that over in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that would. Well, there was no Aaron Jones. We knew that there was going to be limitation with AJ Dillon. Adams definitely played like he was favoring that shoulder. I mean, he was like almost a no factor, right? Myers took over. Jimmy G played like he needed to play. I mean, it was from a fantasy perspective, kind of a dud.
We had a spark of a moment with when Trey Tucker got into the game early and he took that jet sweep, and I thought for a second it looked like it was open. It looked like he was about to take that to the house. I was getting up out of my seat because that was part of the deep sleeper playbook, and but then he got closed on. But I'm sure, as I said and as I've written, and how I still do not understand NFL coaching, the play worked so well. It's worked well every week of the season that they've tried it, but it was probably going to be his one and only attempt, and it was his one and only attempt, sadly enough. So
It was close. They had Watson and Dobbs, Musgrave, and who was the other one that's been in the mix that was there? They had like 4 receivers.
Reed and
Yeah, Reed.
occasionally
We talked
Teray.
about Reed, right? But the Packers just never, I guess, give the Raiders credit. They thwarted whatever. Love didn't look like he was going to get much love from the Green Bay fans. But on to better and bigger and brighter, and Kansas City. They seems like with this Kelce thing going on, they've been on a lot of primetime games lately. You talked about that earlier. What is this? So their 3rd or 4th in a row, and playing Denver, of which I think most people, when they think about Denver, they're thinking this is the team that gave up 70 points to the Dolphins and almost 400 yards and 8 touchdowns to 2 running backs. And they allowed the Jets, as you predicted, and Breece Hall to look like All-Pro Hall of Famer, like you predicted. They looked like they gave Wilson and Wilson. Is there any hope tonight that the Denver defense against, probably one of the more potent offenses with Mahomes, even though he's got an ankle sprain and Kelce's playing, has injuries. Is there any hope that they can hold Kansas City under 40 tonight?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That's the
Not even
that's
a
the
maybe.
first
Not
and
even
last.
A slight maybe.
No, that's
maybe
the
with
first
8
and last
fumbles,
statement of this game. No.
Okay, but now the over-under is 47. What do you think?
That
Kansas
would be the
City
Chiefs
the
by
over.
themselves. Right?
That would be an over for me. I don't, from the latest that I've seen on the weather, there's been all of these. What typically happens, and I'll have to see what the absolute latest is, but what typically happens when there's weather issues on like a Monday or Tuesday, like when we start out the week, people will look at the forecast ahead, take the absolute high end range of whatever they're seeing, and start freaking out for fantasy football. So, according to websites and various reports, there's going to be, 100-mile-an-hour winds and hail and hurricane conditions and all of that. But what I'm seeing on the weather reports today, this morning, was almost no chance of rain. And it's going to be like 15, 16-mile-an-hour winds. Anytime they predict wind gusts and start to scare everybody with it, I rarely ever see it come true. I mean, there may be a momentary wind gust, but who knows whether they'll even be on the field at that point or whether they're in a commercial break. So I think the weather is overblown for this from what I saw this morning. And that should lead to the over being in play for the scoring because Denver's not going to stop Kansas City. And I mean, there's obvious. They gave up 70 points to Miami. They gave up 31, some of it defensive to the Jets. I mean, the story kind of writes itself with Denver, but if you're looking, sometimes teams can get embarrassed like that, and then they'll bounce back the next week and rally up and surprise people. I think the narrative of this game is not only how bad Denver's defense is, but just how bad the whole overall coaching situation, the team's mentality. I mean, they have quit on Sean Payton. There's no,
Already, huh?
I think there is no fight at all in Denver. The only curveball that they could throw at Kansas City would be, I'm sure you will see fake punts. You'll see them going for it on fourth down. They got nothing to lose. So that'll be a wrinkle that's not normal in a game flow. So if they can get lucky on some weird plays,
Some
maybe they stay
trickery,
in it a
huh?
little. Yeah, maybe they stay in it a little bit, but they're most likely going to get their doors blown off by Kansas City.
You think there's possibility they bring Nathaniel Hackett back?
They've got so much money into Sean Payton. I mean, they got a Sean Payton problem. That general manager is going to end up getting. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't been fired already.
Think I could make the team?
Brandon's ready to be
You
put in.
could. There you go. What is that? Is that a rugby hat or is that a
No.
Stanford Cardinal helmet?
No, that's a helmet my father wore at University of Oregon when he played with Van Brocklin.
It definitely looks like it's concussion prone. I don't see any big bubbles on top of it like they wear today.
No,
But
it's
yeah, it looks like a one Paul Hornung. I just saw the videotape. Is that the same era Paul Hornung played?
no, Paul was a little bit after that.
It looked like a helmet. But anyways, RC, we had a little. Brandon usually sits there and behaves himself, but he's definitely involved today, behaving himself. But he's excited because Stanford is they got a game, right?
Colorado this week.
Colorado,
Oh.
prime time. We're going into that could be exciting. Notre Dame's got almost a bye. They play Southern Cal after flopping last. We can't get off into college. Anyway, back to RC. That was my attempt at a joke with Hackett because of what was thrown back and forth. He got the game ball when the Jets won because Sean made some crazy comment about him totally having not a positive coaching experience, and I think he put himself right into that play himself. Sean did, but injuries. Any key injuries on either side before we get more specific about the team?
The Kelsey injury is something to discuss. He's going to play, but it's definitely a discussion for what to do with DFS for him. Denver has a wounded. They have an injured psyche going into this. They know that a lot of them know they're about to get traded. They've turned on Sean Payton. If they were ever with him to begin with, they've totally turned on him. I mean, you give up 70 points in a game, you're not trying. And you can see it on tape. This being a solo night game, they'll probably start out a little enthusiastic, but Kansas City will likely just rip the wind right out of their sails, and this will start to devolve into a battle of the backups in the fourth quarter. Is Kansas City using this as I think that the narrative on this game is Kansas City blows them out but uses it as kind of more training for their offense, kind of like what Miami was doing for 3 quarters, because Kansas City hasn't looked completely in sync as an offense. So this is a good time to work on plays, get some wide receivers rotated in that haven't played as much, but they're maybe trying to look to see if they're going to be starters coming up, like Rashid Rice and Justin Ross. So this game's going to be a bit of a mess to try to figure out for DFS purposes.
I mean, Kansas City receivers always are. And I think we talked about it before. Mahomes came out and said, your fantasy players aren't going to like me, or fantasy managers, because he's going to 10 targets to 10 different guys and 3 different offensive sets. I mean, you got Sky Moore, you have Tony, you have Wright, you have Kelce, and then whoever MBS. Yeah, I don't ever. I mean, if I was going to play anybody, Rice in the red zone, maybe seems like he's getting some targets, but and Kelce obviously. But I don't even know the line. It's got to be double digits. Is it 13.5, 14? What is the line?
I thought it was 10.5 the last time I saw it. But the
It's
the
10 and a
wrinkle,
half.
Yeah,
the
which
wrinkle,
makes you, that's whenever you get that little hook I caught on there, then almost trying to get you to, I don't know. I mean, I feel really, unless there's some historical data that says that game normally plays closer because it's a division rivalry and
It
you know,
does
Kansas.
play closer. It's played within, I think, 6 points the last 5 or 6 times they've played.
That could be the only, you know, you start to watch it in Denver because they're not expected. No one expects them. They probably don't even expect it. And you do have Wilson. We're going to talk about this. Williams is back as a running back, and McLaughlin's been really good. And you have Perrine out of the backfield, came over from the Bengals. But let's stay on the Kansas City side. I 100% agree on the receivers. I mean, if Kelce, the kind of like we talked about, you know, one of the first games, Gray Bell, right? The other tight end, but Kelce does get out there and first series aggravates that ankle or somehow and he's out, right? And, you know, Mahomes still likes to go. What's your thoughts on that scenario on the offensive side of the Kansas City
I,
ball?
if I had to pick the clearest path to what Kansas City is going to want to do, and then they will probably be able to do it, is you beat Denver by running the ball just like the Jets did, just like Miami did. So Pacheco will come out strong and get the offense moving. Obviously, they can throw the ball as well, but it'll be the normal offense. Pacheco with Kelsey and Mahomes, but more Pacheco and the running backs than anything. But at a certain point, I think where the pivot comes is around Kelsey. If this game really, if they're really going to rock Denver, and they should, for many reasons, I think they've played close games in the past, rivalry type game, because Denver was either still alive or had a coaching staff where they were trying to impress, and this is a totally different Denver team that's going to play this game tonight. I mean, a lot of them probably, because there's going to be a 10-day gap after the game and we're coming up close to the trade deadline, there'll probably be 5 players traded off of this team by the time their next game goes off. So I think these guys have a lot of the key guys, some of the key guys have their foot out the door already. The rest of the team, there's no spirit, there's no fight back mood, there's no anything. So I think this is a terrible, terrible Denver team with a terrible psyche going into a Kansas City an at Kansas City on TV game that Kansas City could go nuts on them. But if that's the case, and Kelsey's does have an issue with that leg, with that ankle and possible knee sprain and all that, there is no reason that he's going to play this entire game. There's no reason for him to be playing a majority of the snaps, even right off the bat. I'm sure he'll be out in the first series. He'll probably get some work in the first series or two. And if they score on both, if it's 14-0 in a blink, you ain't going to see much Kelsey for the rest of the game. You're going to have to get everything you can with Kelsey in his first 2 series. That's going to open up. And even Kelsey being on the field, if Denver knows that they can blow him out through Pacheco running and they're going to be able to pass on him, you don't have to pass it to Travis. You don't need Kelsey to bail you out when you're just moving the ball up and down the field. This is a great time for them to get 2 specific wide receivers that they're trying to get going to maybe be the starters for this team, and that's Rashee Rice, even though he played the lowest amount of snaps of the wide receiver group last week. So it's curious, but that's the guy Mahomes favors when he's on the field. Everybody sees it. It's true. I see it in the tape. He spreads it all around to everybody, but it's Kelsey primarily, but when it's not Kelsey, it's Rice, especially in the red zone. But last week was the first real turn for them playing a lot of snaps for Justin Ross. So this would be a perfect game to let those guys play more snaps after the starters get out to a big lead in the first couple series, and Pacheco will probably lead the way. You can then get in almost like a preseason game. You could start to get more Rice, more Ross to help them develop so that they can be
The
handy, and
Rice-A-Roni,
maybe Rice be a
the
starter
Rice-A-Roni combo.
eventually.
Yeah, I like that Ross play. I looked at him. He's like listed wide receiver 4, almost 5, maybe 5, with Sky Moore, Tony, MVS, and Rice, right? So
He played his first real good amount of snaps last week. So it's whether they really are going to try to push him to be more in that rotation or a possible starter at some point, whether that's Rice or Rice and Ross. This is just a perfect time to get them the extra work, or just pull the starters out so they don't get hurt and let those guys get extra work. So whatever's going to happen with the starters is probably going to be within the first quarter to a half, and then it's probably going to flip. But the way they rotate receivers, I could see this being a lot of Rice and Ross, especially Ross is due to get a touchdown in a game like this to just get his confidence up, get him something. He's the one guy of the wide receiver group that hasn't had a moment yet this season. So if Kansas City's just dominating, this is a perfect time to let him make his way all the way back from 2 knee surgeries, undrafted free agent, working hard on the practice squad, finally now getting up to playing, a good little chunk of snaps in the rotation last week in a game that was nip and tuck back and forth. So if this game gets out of hand, it would be the perfect time to get him some work and get him his touchdown so that they can all celebrate and have fun.
that's assuming that it's not 45-mile-an-hour winds with hail coming down and,
Yeah, that's
inclement
assuming
weather.
it's
But
not.
that's a game theory I like. That's Kansas City being Kansas City. Let's touch on, you've got a 3 running back tandem. Obviously, Pacheco has emerged this year. He looks really good running over people. Got my guy tonight, who I kind of like, but I was thinking the weather was going to be frightful. I like McKinnon. He seems to do well in nationally televised games. He's a nice outlet. Mahomes likes to have him swing out and fake and get him out on the flat. So I thought if the wind is windy, that he was a good play. And then you've got the other guy that's got a 3 hyphenated, Claire Makata. I don't know what is his name, MCH or something.
Clyde
What is it?
Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah. So sometimes he's not around, but in this sort of game, I think if they jump out, he's playing more. McKinnon's going to be in. What's your thoughts on those backs?
I think if it gets out of hand, McKinnon's a veteran that they will pull out of the game with Pacheco. The second half of this game or fourth quarter of this game could be all the backups, but especially at running back, there's no reason to run Pacheco into the ground if he carries them the first couple quarters of the game and Kansas City gets out to a big enough lead. I think we'll see some extra Clyde Edwards-Helaire to just run this game out and keep Pacheco and McKinnon safe. That doesn't mean McKinnon can't have a big play before all that happens, but just a note, I'm looking at the the Weather Channel app, and I'm looking at Kansas City forecast. At kickoff at 8 o'clock, there's a 1% chance of rain with 16-mile-an-hour winds. The rain chances goes up to 15% through the game, and the wind stays about 15, 16 miles an hour
Is there
according
gusts,
to
or is it a steady
that.
one with gusts, or?
So doesn't say about the gust, it just says average or expected wind 15, 16 miles an hour. So there can be certainly an occasional gust in that, but I don't think it's going to be as bad. Looking at the scattered thunderstorms and such for them is going to be after midnight. Winds 15 to 25 miles an hour, but they pick up later when the storm hits after midnight. So I don't think weather right now is going to be the factor that it was thought to be.
In Kansas City, I mean, Mahomes has never been the bomb guy. I mean, he's Kelce up, in the middle, and all these guys. I just sure they have speed, and Tony. I mean, they're all like boom and let them run. So the wind wouldn't really affect that as much as maybe Wilson trying to go, and we'll get over to that side of the ball to Sutton or Judy or whatever. But okay, that's a great game script if what looks like it would happen. If Kansas City jumps out, they totally dominate, as they most likely could. Some of these other plays, CEH, if you want to put him in, which I'll definitely look at him. Not a lot of people will play him. They're going to be all over Pacheco, maybe a little sprinkling of McKinnon. Look at Ross. He could be the dart. Kelce with, depending on how that, Gray or Bell. I know we go back and forth with them. Either one of them probably could pick up some snaps, and then the receivers. I mean, it's like literally trying to, between, once you get outside of Rice and Ross, which I like, I mean, Sky Moore, who everybody keeps thinking is going to have a big game, Tony, who has colorful shoes and once in a while runs around the end, and then MVS, who I'm never going to play, but go ahead.
They all those receivers, the non-Rice and Ross, are playing the same game every week. Sky Moore isn't even looked at. He's just running around, and when Mahomes is either on the run, or if they want one specific play where they're setting it up for, this is where we'll get the slottish wide receiver a target on this play because it should open up off a pick or a rub. That's he'll get one or two purposeful things, and that's about it. Maybe he'll get a third item in a crisis, but there shouldn't be too much crisis tonight. Tony gets more of the action than any of the standard starters on bubble screens and such, but he looks like, I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's out of shape. He does not look like the player from 2 years ago.
I
So
agree.
he's getting
Yeah.
touches, but he's not taking them anywhere. And then MVS is just a total waste of time. But he could get a big play just like Justin Watson could. But I
Oh,
really
yeah, I
think
forgot about Watson. Yeah.
I really think this is going to be more, they're all random again. So anything could happen with them in their 1 or 2 or maybe 3 catches at the most. But when there comes to a purpose, Rice and Ross seem to be what they're trying to get over or going or what have you. And then if they take the starters out and put Gabbard in, let's say halfway through the third quarter or for the fourth quarter, he will be working with Noah Gray, Rice, and Justin Ross almost exclusively.
Love it. The opposite end of that is if somehow Denver plays like they've played, not for a lot of years, but keeps it competitive, then go back to the same script. Mahomes definitely you don't want to fade him. He's going to get you points. Pacheco's going to pound the ball. Kelce, if he has to play, he'll play. You definitely don't want to fade him, but you're given two opposite scripts, the one much more likely. So let's jump over to that Denver Bronco juggernaut of a team. We got Russell Wilson that everybody predicted because there were a lot of videos out on social media how he was just going to resurrect his recent efforts, and he had the receivers around him. I know he lost the tight end who was promising. He's still on IR. Judy came up. He's back. I saw some targets for him, which surprised me. In the last 3 games, he's 4 or 5 targets. You've got Sutland, who's a stud. I like him. If anybody ends up going somewhere, a team probably is really interested in him. I don't know if Denver will let him go. The backfield, I mentioned it earlier. You've got Javonte, I think, coming back. Williams, McLaughlin's been really good. And then you have the Perrine that came over from the Bengals. I think I asked, any injuries on that Denver side that may be concerning?
Just their whole team is concerning. There's
The
no
whole team should be on the IR.
Yeah, there's no injury. Yeah, there's no key injury
I
that's
didn't mean
forced.
mental. I
Yeah,
meant physical.
there's no physical injury that's causing any of this, any of their problems.
Yeah, that should be that could be a whole nother NFL report. Physically able, but mentally unable to perform because of focus. But what do you think? Russell has a big night tonight, throws for over 300, rushes for 3, and just superstar against that Kansas City defense. Any chances of that?
I think 0 to 1% chance.
Oh,
I think Wilson is going into self-preservation mode because he can't stand Sean Payton, just like they all can't. So that when you're Russell Wilson and your career is really coming to an end, and he might be blaming that on Sean Payton, he might be blaming it on the team, whatever. His best thing to do with a team that he knows is going to get all broken up, he may even possibly be traded. The most important thing you can do with all that money you've got coming to you is self-preservation and not embarrassing yourself, which is the way he's played pretty much this whole season, of short passes, screen passes. I don't think they're gonna open up. I don't think you'll see Russell Wilson go, man, we're down 14 or we're down 21 and this is the Chiefs. We really need to gun it. We really need to work downfield. I think he's gonna dink and dunk, and then at the end of the game, he's gonna go, I didn't get hit, and I completed 79% of my passes for 180 yards, and we got beat by 30, but I didn't get hurt and I didn't throw an interception, and I got 3 days off until we got to be practicing again. Wonder if I'm going to get traded in this time span. I don't
That's
care
quite
about
a
this
salary
team.
for somebody. I mean, Denver would
Yeah.
really have to eat salary, wouldn't they? That'd be,
Yeah.
I mean, these. Who's the backup for Denver?
I don't think Jarrett Stidham. I don't think they'll be able to trade him. There's really no place for him to go. There'd have to
Yeah,
be a major injury pop up on like Sunday that could
yeah.
change the narrative. But he's got to be in self-preservation mode. So I don't think we'll see. And Kansas City's got a really good defense. So even if he tried to gun it, he doesn't have a ton of time in the pocket. Those are bad wide receivers masquerading as supposedly good wide receivers. His best Denver's best hope, the Denver game script will be, even when they're down 14-21 off the bat, if it happens that way, or the way that they could maybe get up early and hang in this game a little bit. I'm sure Denver's thinking, how do we least get embarrassed in this game. Let's run the clock so that we only get beat with Kansas City scoring 35, not 70. So let's just run the ball and throw screen passes, keep the clock moving. Don't huddle up. Don't rush to the line. Don't snap the ball before, the clock's down to 5 seconds before you got to run the play. We'll just keep handing it off, screen passes, and that's not going to be great because Kansas City knows it's coming. They've seen what Denver's been doing, and Kansas City is a good defense, but you can move the ball in the NFL playing the little screen game. So I think this is a game for the screen guys, which would be McLaughlin would be the primary hope that he can take a screen and take it to the house like he's done a couple times. It also is a case for Marvin Mims to get a screen pass and try to do something with it as he's done, as he's shown the ability to do. It'll be a three-headed rotate. Whatever the running totals are, it'll probably be equally balanced between the three running backs, if not more for McLaughlin than any of them, just because he just shows more juice. He can outrun the bad blocking. Javonte isn't showing any ability to outrun the bad blocking. P. Ryan is probably praying to God that he stays healthy and that they trade him back to Cincinnati in these next upcoming 10 days. So I think they'll run clock and pray. And Russell Wilson will be down for that because he's going to want to sit back in the pocket and throw downfield and risk getting wailed on by the Kansas City defensive pass rush. So I think it's a short game for Denver. Even if they're down 21 or 28, it'll be a short game as Kansas City has fun on the other side doing whatever that they want to do. And if it works for Denver, if Denver somehow gets out to a lead, let's say that the opening kickoff return is fumbled and Denver returns it for a touchdown, then all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, that Denver will then really stick to the run game and try to run the clock and keep this thing close. If they get down because Kansas City scores on the first three series and it's 21-0, I think Denver will still be running and screen passing because they're just going to try to go, please don't let them score 70 points on us. That's Denver's primary goal. Please let's not give up half 100 here. Where Kansas City's is going to wind up being, this is going to be a great game to pull Kelsey, pull Mahomes, get Justin Ross more involved. Let CEH go out there and get his head battered in. We'll keep Pacheco safe. Denver's mode is small ball and let's not lose by a million.
How about the defenses, RC? You like Kansas City as a play?
I mean, Kansas City would be the play, but Denver's likely to play it so safe that there's not going to be a lot of opportunity for sacks. The ball's not going to be in the air as much for intercept. I don't think Russ is going to throw caution to the wind and start throwing. Those are two bad wide receivers now. Sutton's is nowhere near the receiver that he was 5 years ago. Jerry Jeudy's never been a good receiver. So even if he tried to go bombs away with his, or just try to push the ball downfield, he's mismatched against by Kansas City's coverage. So there's not even going to be anybody to throw to except for if Mims sneaks out on the loose. So I think everything's going to be short and sweet. And Russell Wilson's primary goal in this game is not to win it, but to come out alive, never have anybody touch him, and not throw an interception. So it could be limited sacks and limited opportunities for turnover. So I don't love the defensive opportunities in this game.
How about kickers? Indifferent on the kickers with the wind?
Denver's probably not going to try to kick. They're going to go for fourth downs, fourth and shorts, and then Kansas City may settle for some field goals, but they will probably go for 4th and shorts as well because it's the Denver defense. They're, even if they don't get it, it's not like they're going to be, oh my goodness, we just gave to the great Denver Broncos an opportunity to get back in this game. So I think it'll all be limited. Plus, if you got, you're going to have some wind pushing the ball, not making it easy, depending on where it's coming in from the stadium. If it reduces the distance that those guys can kick it, this just seems like it's going to be a really bad night for predictable football. That it's probably going to go as predicted. Kansas City wins big, but then you're going to get all these backups. You're not going to get a lot of kicking field goals, and you'll get fake punts and all kinds of weird things happening, weird motivations on both sides that don't make it a normal game. Like Green Bay and Las Vegas Monday night were equally matched, and they were both trying to win or both trying not to lose that game, and they were throwing their running back punches at each other and trying to complete some passes. Otherwise, they were going to take field goals, even if ill-advised field goals at the end of the game. They were going to do everything. Everybody was playing the way that they've typically been patterned to play all season. This one could get out of hand and you throw the whole playbook out. We could see we could see them bench Russell Wilson, and if the game gets out of hand, and put Jarrett Stidham in, and then he's going to come in and actually try. It could change, then all of a sudden there's a whole new dimension that there's actually somebody trying to impress in the second half of the game instead of Russell Wilson dinking and dunking.
The best thing about that game on Monday was I was on the East Coast in Miami. So I went to bed at halftime.
You missed an exciting second half. It looked a lot like the first half.
Yeah, which is why I went to bed.
Daryl, you got muted there.
I was saying, yeah, the only other scenario we played out, I think on both sides of the ball, that Kansas City dominates, which for me 10.5 isn't a lot of points. It's a little scary. I don't know how they got to be factoring in the rivalry, because Kansas City's a lot better than 10.5 points better than Denver. Like, how does that play out? Has Denver beat anybody?
Was it opening week that they won?
What's their record, Brandon? Looking at it, I mean,
Yeah, it's 1-4.
who'd they beat?
Let's see.
Lost to the Jets.
Oh,
smashed.
that's right. They had that Chicago game. They
Huh?
had the Chicago game where they were losing by 3 scores.
Okay, that doesn't even count. I mean,
No.
so there's two teams, but I mean, again, 10.5, that should be the halftime line.
I think
Right? It's just scary because it looks like to me, whenever it's like that, and the money's got to be like 80% on Kansas City at 10.5.
if what I'm gonna guess Vegas is doing is they're gonna throw out the Miami game, and they're gonna look at all the 4 other results and go, they lost by 1, they lost by 2, they won by 3, and then they lost by 10 to the Jets, but that was really close and they had a chance to win at the end, but they fumbled it away, and then that caused them to lose by 10.
Right. But wait,
But
the
this is
Jets,
also
the
this
Jets.
is also worse. They played some of the worst teams literally in the league. They played Las Vegas tight. They played Washington tight. They played Chicago tight, and they played the Jets tight. That's not Kansas City. The template for facing Kansas City for Denver to me is the Miami game, of which I mean, if the Jets had any better passing game, more comfortable passing game, they would have probably beat they could have got to 50 points if they had a decent quarterback the way their defense was playing. So I mean, they put 31 on Denver with a pretty rough offense that Denver knew the Jets were going to try to run, so they were overplaying the run and daring the Jets to throw, and the Jets weren't really accommodating. They were trying to run it through the stack. Well, what are you going to stack Kansas City's run game? Mahomes will throw for 400 yards in the first half if you try to overstack the run game. So I would say Denver will do the opposite on defense that they did against the Jets. If I'm Denver, I'm like, we are laying back. I hope Isaiah Pacheco runs the ball every play for them because that'll just keep the clock moving, and we'll stiffen up when they get closer to the end zone. But man, if they would do us a huge favor and just run the ball all the time and run that clock, then maybe we won't get beat by 40 points. So I mean, Denver's going to try to slow this thing down to keep it within that 10.5, but I just don't think they have the capability at all.
Yeah, I'm looking at Denver's defense. It has 3 interceptions on the year. They do have two touchdowns on defense. Not sure exactly. 12 sacks. And then Kansas City. I mean, that would be the only way, like you said. All of a sudden, Mahomes has seemed to have been under the Swifty mesmerization, throwing stuff up for Kelce. If he tries to do that again, but with Kelce being, I don't think they're gonna. I think a lot of that stuff's gonna be Kelce going down, setting and turning around 10, 15 yards. I don't see with that ankle him trying to hit him 20 yards or deeper.
Denver's been on the road. Denver's been on the road twice. They got completely obliterated and humiliated by Miami. They started out getting completely obliterated by the Bears, who are arguably one of the worst teams in the league.
28-3.
And yeah, then somehow miraculously came back in that game. You're not coming back against Kansas City if you get down by 3 or so scores. If Denver can get lucky, however it happens, to get a score early, that'll give them a little bit of heart. But if Kansas City gets the ball first and runs right down the field, and it's 7-0 off the first drive, this game could go for 70 points. I mean, they're going to take, as soon as they take whatever little heart Denver has for this game out, it's going to be a bloodbath.
I agree. I mean, again, those things scare me because it doesn't look. I know anything in double digits of the NFL is a big number, especially Kansas City scores first and you're down 17.5, so you're basically down 3 touchdowns. So, but it looks. I mean, if it was at Denver, I would think the line would still have to be like 8. Given Denver, that doesn't look like enough, even though it's a home dog, but. We have a few minutes left. We'll let people know starting next week, RC, we're going to be live. They've actually escalated us up to live on the Better Sports Network. Shout out to those guys. Had to bribe them a lot, not for you, for me. They're just afraid of what may happen when I get out there live and I can't, have them edit out my whatever it is they don't want the public to see. Brandon, he's pretty safe, but yeah, I look forward Monday, Thursday next week, and the world does not know what it's in for, but it's all good. But I think you touched on them, but we always talk about a Ronnie Bell. I'm going to call it the Ronnie Bell play for the rest of the year because that's one of the reasons I have 2 Millionaire Maker first place ties in my war chest to add many more. But is there a Ronnie Bell play of the night that I'm seeing this Ross is like bubbling out of you, but I'm going to let you name who it is.
I think there's 4 players to watch to be that kind of out of nowhere scenario. Not, I mean, out of nowhere is overstating it on a couple of them, but
Unexpected, yeah.
Marvin Mims to play more in this game, getting some jet sweeps, and maybe be the one who can catch Kansas City by surprise, and Russell hits them with some deep ball action. That's one exciting potential big playmaker that could have his whole fantasy game week scoring top 6 for the day on one play. Plus, or he could do it in the return game. I don't, I have to see what the status is, and if he gets activated. But their starting pass catching tight end, Greg Dulcich, has been on IR, but he's eligible to come off IR when he's ready. He could get active tonight, and then he would add a different element to the passing game, and he would fit that short pass game narrative, and he would fit the anything but Sutton and Judy narrative. It was like the times that Sutton and Judy have had decent games this year is because they've played some of the bottom of the barrel secondaries and defenses in the league, whether that's by talent or by injuries that forced it, like with Chicago. That's how they can have a good game. But facing Kansas City's traditional normal defense, they will wipe Sutton and Judy out. But Dulcich could be a little bit of a wrinkle they're not fully prepared for, because we've only seen Dulcich in 1 week, and then he got hurt and he was gone. So we don't really know what Dulcich will be like in this Sean Payton offense. So he would be the
He's
Denver
fast.
wrinkle
I mean, I saw him. I'm glad you brought that up.
if he's
Troutman is the
active.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says they're activating him. Last year there was a Millie Maker, middle or late. It was a half a Millie Maker, and I was watching a show. This is before we had the optimizer and Sportstopia, but he was a guy that a guy put in late because someone gave a tip just like you, and he shipped for $500,000. So that could be an omen. But like, not a lot of people will be looking at him because they're going to see that IR, and if you read closer, it says will be active. I like him. Definitely a good weapon.
Yeah. I'll be great to see that, around 7 o'clock when they make that official announcement. But if he's going to be active, that is definitely a different wrinkle. And then 2 on the Kansas City side would be, I just think Justin Ross is going to score a touchdown tonight. He's 900 for anybody playing props. He's 900 to 1 anytime touchdown. I think it's going to be hit because there's going to be 5 touchdowns to probably go around for Kansas City. I just have a feeling he's going to get one of them. The other deeper or weirder scenario player would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I have to say is terrible. I'm not jumping on him because I'm a fan or anything. And it was a terrible pick, a wasted first round draft pick. He looks like one of the worst running backs in the NFL this season. All that being said, he may get 10 to 15 touches as they're trying to put this game away in the second half and keep Pacheco on the sidelines. They got the Chargers coming up next week. They can't afford to have Kelsey be getting hurt or Pacheco twist his ankle. So if they get up and out on this game, I don't think Andy Reid's going to let, usually Mahomes has got, playing with a severed limb, and he's trying to get Andy Reid to let him play, and Andy Reid will let him go out there more, and he'll let Kelsey go out there more. I don't think he'll do that this game when they're up big. So we could see Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually get more touches than Isaiah Pacheco. He won't be as effective, but this run defense for Denver is so awful that maybe even Clyde Edwards-Helaire can have 100 yards and a half. That's how bad it is. So
I like him.
those would be my 2 weird scenarios to come
He's
out.
1,500, so he's super cheap. He's got 28 attempts, almost 100 yards on a TD already. He's averaging 18 yards per game. So I like that. I don't think a lot of people will play him. I think they're going to look to, like I was looking, Pacheco a lot, McKinnon, but you sneak that guy in and could be the dart. And then Ross, say he's only 900.
I'm gonna pull one. I'm gonna pull one way out of my wallet
Uh-oh.
that I don't even think.
Beyond the last dollar bill in his wallet. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, and this you'll we'll definitely have to see who's active, who's not active. But if Kansas City activates LaMichael Pirine from the
He is.
practice
I see him
squad,
on here. I was thinking if you play Pirine and Pirine, you'd have the double Pirine on your team. He's only $200.
if they activate him, I mean they can have him active, but set him
they
in.
reverted him. It says, oh wait, on Monday.
He could be
Doesn't say
put
about tonight,
inactive.
okay.
Yeah, he could
Was
be
he related
put,
to the other one?
yeah, they're brothers. He could be. He's an active roster player that they can promote from the practice squad, but that doesn't mean that they have to activate him for the game. They can make him inactive for the game. So you want to try to get confirmation on it. But to me, if they go out of their way to activate LaMichael Pirine for this game, it may mean that they also know this game's probably going to get out of hand. We don't want to waste our running backs on getting hurt in a ridiculous joke of a game. So let's let LaMichael Pirine get some touches on the way out the door. And he looked really good in the preseason.
Good call there. That would be a really big dart if you didn't. I'm going to lean for, not that I'll fade that one. I may sprinkle him in a few, but I really like the guy I couldn't even pronounce, CEH, we'll call him. Like him a lot. Definitely like Ross. What about this Prince guy? Is he even on the team anymore? Prince was picked up by Kansas City. Yeah, he is. Okay, love it. Any closing words, Brandon?
Just have some fun tonight. Have some fun tonight. I'm going to be watching the whole game.
Yeah, it's kind of going back and forth. Braves, Phillies, and Phillies trying to close it out.
We're talking the Astros going back to the championship round again. Is that what we're talking about?
Looks like
you know that there's two, the coaching similarities with the Astros and the Rangers, don't you?
Uh-oh, I'm bracing myself.
They are both former San Francisco Giant managers. Bochy won 3 championships, and Baker was one of the most favored. And there are a lot of Giants fans that would love to have either one back. So as a Giants fan, since we had Cap where we got rid of him and we still have Farhad, I'm rooting, probably lean for Bochy. He got kind of pushed out. Baker kind of the same. Baker's had some success with the Astros, but is that your team?
Yeah. I'm not a super fan because I don't have time to get in the weeds and love baseball with all the football stuff that goes on. But following the team, my parents are season ticket holders. They're mega fans. So I followed the Astros because they were, and then all of a sudden I got hooked into them. So I enjoy watching them as well. So from what I've seen from my cheap seats of not baseball expertise, I would be willing to give you Dusty Baker back to the Giants if you wanted him.
We'll take it, but he's a player. He's a player coach. I mean, the guy comes out with his wristband. He's got his
this cup I'm about to drink out of could manage the Astros to the World Series.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, Stanford tomorrow night.
You can take Dusty and those stupid wristbands and gloves he wears and take him on to San Francisco.
Yeah, well, we'd have him after what we just got rid of, but great show. Thank you. Appreciate you, RC. Brandon, as always, great to have you back. I know you're on location, but you're back with us now. You're getting geared up. We got to sharpen our game to get up to that RC level next week. We go live, ladies and gentlemen, on the Sportstopia HQ YouTube channel, and I think they simulcast it all over the networks, maybe all the way as far as China. No, I may be exaggerating there, but starting to get a lot of attention.
Does this mean we have to wear our Van Gogh print shirts for?
You know what? There's a story behind this. Krista was supposed to be back today, so I did what every guy that had his girlfriend and his dog gone for 5 weeks. I did all my laundry and took it out of the laundry room where it usually is and folded it up and put it in the drawers. And then I went and I go, am I going to have to go through the drawer to find a shirt? And I went to the closet, and this is my, many of you followed NFTs when they were a craze. It was a Beeple sold for $69 million, and it looked a lot like this shirt. The shirt worth a lot less, but it's when I wanted, you know, prepare myself for this podcast, I brought out something different. But no, you don't have to bring it out. But I want you to remember we will be live, so that's up to you.
I like it a lot. It feels like if I were to ever try acid, that's what I would be seeing.
Yeah. But
in the background, the sky would look like that.
That's a good thing. Good thing
I think on that note, it's time to call it.
Yes, today it's called the Mendocino mushrooms. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
And, good luck in your fantasy and your wagering where it's legal endeavors for this evening.
Or where it's not.